Even though COVID-19 vaccines are now becoming more readily available in the country, many people living with disabilities who are at a higher risk of adverse COVID-19 outcomes are yet to be officially prioritized for home vaccinations. 35-year-old Bernard Chiira, who lives with kyphoscoliosis, believes that his late brother, Robert Ndirangu, who also had the same disability, would probably still be alive if he'd been vaccinated against COVID-19. Dorcas Wangira narrates Robert's fight through his family's account and tells us why they're advocating for interventions for people living with disabilities in the wake of the devastating pandemic.
Robert Ndirangu died on the 14th June 2021 at the Mater Hospital after battling for almost 2.5 months with respiratory complications as a result of COVID-19. Even though he tested negative eventually, the damage it had done to his body was too much.
He paid the highest price, he lost his life. Had he gotten access to this vaccine, because he passed on in June, if we had access to vaccines in this country by April, maybe he would still be here to tell the story.
But the story of Robert is not just about how and why he died, but also the quality of his life and how he touched the world in his special way. Robert had just graduated from the Kenya School of Law and was to be admitted to the bar. He was a national chess champion.
That's what the whole family applauded him for, and we were even hoping that he would even one day open his own academy to even train other kids and other people, because it was a great passion for him.
All this in spite of living with kyphoscoliosis, a curvature of the spine and chest bones. Due to malformation of the thoracic cavity, patients with this condition have an increased risk of respiratory failure, and this is associated with poor clinical outcomes.
And it could even take you very long to recover, just like it took Robert.
In the words of his doctor, Bernard writes, and I quote, "Robert would have walked away from hospital a long time ago if he didn't have kyphoscoliosis. He was only buried after a court order to compel the Mater Hospital to release his body."
To treat severe COVID is very expensive. In about the 2.5 months that he was in hospital, we incurred a bill of more than 10 million. Now tell me which family in Kenya can afford that.
Robert was the fifth born in a family of 7 children. 3 of Joseph Mwangi Kanyeki's 7 children are already deceased. 4 of the 7 siblings have had one or more disabilities. Only their elder brother James and younger sister Shiku have none. 35-year-old Bernard, Robert's younger brother, was born with a brittle bone disease and developed kyphoscoliosis as a teenager. Everything from access to education, healthcare, independence, and even work has been a hurdle. But having surmounted them, he's now the director of Innovate Now, an assistive tech accelerator and an advocate for people living with disabilities. According to the 2019 census, 2.2% of Kenyans live with some form of disability. But as vaccines become more available, there is a constituency that easily goes unheard and unseen. The fact that people living with disability face challenges and depend on others for assistance, they are at an even more risk of mortality from severe COVID-19.
The risk is not just on the persons with disabilities, but it is on all of us.
They are attacked by COVID. There should be plans of where they can be treated and how their bills can be paid.
The government, however, says it has extended its bracket for priority groups.
In line with the deployment plan, I also direct the immediate inclusion of all persons above 18 years old with underlying medical conditions or disabilities.
But this, Bernard and his family says, is just but a drop in the ocean of intervention. Kenya is yet to systemically collect disability disaggregated data to understand the adverse impacts of COVID-19. Even for this priority group, confusing eligibility and limited accessibility of vaccines can be a problem. Besides home vaccination, Bernard adds that there must first be access to information for people living with disabilities, such as in sign language for the deaf, for them to make informed choices about vaccination.
None of us is safe until every one of us is vaccinated.
Dorcas Wangira, Citizen TV, Nairobi.